It was a cold Monday morning in the city, the kind where the skyscrapers seemed to vanish into low-hanging fog and the streets buzzed with the frantic hum of early commuters. Inside the luxurious penthouse of Alexander Hayes, the billionaire tech mogul, things were as controlled and perfect as the rest of his life, or so it appeared. Alexander was a man of rules, routines, and absolute order, and nothing in his world was ever allowed to deviate from his plan. Every glass in his kitchen sparkled in precise alignment, every cushion in the massive living room was perfectly fluffed, and his two young daughters, Emily and Sophie, were dressed in matching designer uniforms for their elite private school. Emily, at 9, was sharp-eyed and stubborn like her father, while Sophie, just 6, was a bubbly bundle of questions and giggles. Their mother had died in an accident years ago, leaving Alexander fiercely protective and almost obsessively watchful over them. Since then, he had cycled through nannies, maids, and private tutors. None lasted more than a few weeks under his relentless scrutiny. "No one gets close," he often told his head of security. "They're my girls. Mine to protect. No mistakes." It was that same morning, as he sat at the long marble breakfast table, scanning business reports on his tablet, that the head housekeeper timidly approached him with a folder. "Sir, about the new cleaner," she began. Alexander's eyes flicked up, impatient. "I thought I told you, full background checks. Nothing suspicious. No one comes into this house without clearance." The housekeeper nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." She passed the checks. "Her name is Maria Lopez. She's starting today." Alexander barely acknowledged it, but in the corner of his vision, he caught sight of a slim figure quietly moving into the kitchen. She was dressed plainly, black cleaning trousers, a crisp white shirt, and her hair pulled into a simple bun. Her face was calm, almost unreadable, and she carried herself with a quiet confidence that didn't quite match the posture of the average cleaner. She didn't speak, she simply started wiping down the kitchen counters, moving with practiced precision. Alexander noticed, almost reluctantly, that she seemed to know exactly what she was doing. Hesitations, as if she had been here before. He brushed off the thought and went back to his tablet. Emily and Sophie, however, noticed her immediately. "Hi," Sophie chirped, skipping over. "I'm Sophie, and this is my big sister Emily. What's your name?" Maria glanced down with a faint smile. "Maria," she said softly, then went back to work. Emily tilted her head, studying her. "Where are you from? You don't sound like you're from here." Maria's eyes flickered for a second, but she didn't answer. Instead, she moved to the next counter. Alexander frowned, setting his tablet down. "Girls, leave her alone. Go get your school bags." The tone was final, and they obeyed, but Emily's curious eyes lingered. No fumbling, no hesitations, as if she had been here before. He brushed off the thought and went back to his tablet. Emily and Sophie, however, noticed her immediately. "Hi," Sophie chirped, skipping over. "I'm Sophie, and this is my big sister Emily. What's your name?" Maria glanced down with a faint smile. "Maria," she said softly, then went back to work. Emily tilted her head, studying her. "Where are you from? You don't sound like you're from here." Maria's eyes flickered for a second, but she didn't answer. Instead, she moved to the next counter. Alexander frowned, setting his tablet down. "Girls, leave her alone. Go get your school bags." The tone was final, and they obeyed, but Emily's curious eyes lingered on Maria for a moment longer before she turned away. By mid-morning, Alexander had left for a series of meetings, leaving the children in the care of their tutor and the household staff. Maria kept mostly to herself, but something about her presence unsettled the others. She didn't gossip with the other maids, she didn't check her phone every few minutes, she worked in total silence. The head housekeeper whispered to another staff member that she had seen Maria staring out the window for almost 10 minutes, her eyes scanning the street below like she was waiting for something. That night, when Alexander returned, he found his daughters playing on the living room floor, Emily with her books, Sophie with her dolls. Maria was nearby, dusting the shelves. He noticed Sophie chatting happily to her, showing her a toy. "Look, she has magic hair," Sophie said, giggling. Maria knelt down, smiling faintly. "That's nice," she replied, but then she glanced toward Alexander, and for a split second, their eyes met. There was something there, something sharp and knowing, that made his stomach tighten. He told himself he was imagining it, but the feeling lingered. The week went on, and slowly, the girls grew attached to Maria. She never tried to bond with them, but somehow, they kept drifting toward her. Emily would accidentally end up in whatever room Maria was cleaning, asking questions about random things, how to get stains out of silk, what the weather was like in other countries, if she could speak another language. Sophie, meanwhile, seemed to like following her around like a little shadow. Alexander didn't like it. He told himself it was just his protective instincts, but there was something else too, a deep, nagging suspicion. One Thursday afternoon, he came home early and walked into the kitchen just in time to see Maria kneeling beside Emily, her hand resting lightly on the girl's shoulder as they looked at something on the tablet. The moment Alexander stepped in, his voice rang out like a whip, "Don't touch my daughters." His words were so sharp that both Emily and Maria froze. Sophie, who had been playing nearby, looked up in shock. The air went still, and Alexander took a step forward, his eyes cold and furious. Maria slowly straightened up, her face unreadable. Then, in a voice that was calm but carried an edge of steel, she turned to him and said, "If I don't, Mr. Hayes, they might not live to see tomorrow." The room went dead silent. Emily's eyes widened, Sophie clutched her doll, and Alexander's grip on his phone tightened. "What did you just say?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Maria didn't flinch. "You think your money and security systems keep them safe," she said evenly. "But you have no idea what's coming. I'm not here to harm them, Mr. Hayes. I'm here to keep them alive." Alexander stared at her, his mind racing. Was this a threat? A warning? A bluff? The head of security, hearing the commotion, stepped into the room. "Sir, is there a problem?" Alexander didn't take his eyes off Maria. "Yes," he said slowly. "I want to know exactly who this woman is. Now." But Maria simply set down her cleaning cloth, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "You'll find out soon enough. But if you get rid of me now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." And with that, she picked up her cleaning supplies and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Alexander standing there in stunned silence, his daughters watching him with wide, fearful eyes. Somewhere deep down, beneath his anger and suspicion, a sliver of something else crept in, dread. And so, the first crack appeared in Alexander's perfect world. He didn't know it yet, but the truth about Maria, and the danger she had just hinted at, would shatter everything he thought he knew about his life, his family, and the people he trusted. If you're hooked already and can't wait to find out who Maria really is, what she knows, and why she would risk standing up to a billionaire in his own home, stay with us, because Chapter 2 will shake you to the core. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button, so you never miss the rest of this story and more heart-pounding tales like it. That night, Alexander barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, Maria's words replayed in his mind, "If I don't, they might not live to see tomorrow." It was absurd. He had the best private security money could buy, cameras in every corner, guards at the gates, and yet something about the way she said it, it wasn't bluff or blackmail. It was conviction. The next morning, before the sun rose, he was in his office, calling in his head of security, Mason. "I want a full background check on Maria Lopez," he said coldly. "Not the standard one. I want every single thing, where she was born, where she lived, who she's talked to in the past month." Dig until you find something that doesn't add up. Mason nodded, but his brow furrowed. Sir, we already ran her through the system. She's clean. Then run her through my system, Alexander snapped. And don't tell her we're doing it. The day went on in tense silence. Maria moved about the house like nothing had happened, cleaning, dusting, and even helping Sophie tie her shoelaces. Alexander's eyes followed her every move. Emily, sharp as ever, picked up on the tension. Dad, she asked quietly over lunch, why are you being weird with Maria? She's nice. He forced a tight smile. She's new. I just don't know her yet. But inside, his mind was a storm. At 4 p.m., Mason returned with a folder. Sir, you're going to want to see this. Alexander opened it, and froze. Maria Lopez didn't exist. At least, not in any official records for the last 10 years. Before that, she had a different name, Mariana Vega. Born in a small border town. Parents dead. No siblings. Her name appeared briefly in military records, classified service in an elite security unit. Then she vanished off the grid. She's not a cleaner, Mason said grimly. She's trained. Highly. And she's hiding something big. Alexander's first instinct was to throw her out, but something made him stop. If she was dangerous, why was she in his home, quietly working, instead of making a move? That evening, while the girls were upstairs doing homework, Alexander confronted her. He found her in the library, dusting the shelves. Enough games, he said sharply. Who sent you? Maria didn't even turn around. No one sent me. Then why are you here? Why did you say my daughters aren't safe? She turned slowly, meeting his eyes. Because they aren't. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. 5 years ago, your company shut down a project, Project Helios. You ordered it buried. But the people who lost millions because of it? They didn't forget. And now, they're coming for you. Alexander felt his blood run cold. Project Helios was a secret only his top executives knew about, a prototype AI defense system that had been stolen before it could be completed. It had cost investors billions, and more importantly, it had put dangerous technology into the wrong hands. How do you know about that? He demanded. Maria's jaw tightened. Because I was the one sent to recover it. And I failed. Her eyes darkened with something like guilt. They killed my team. I went into hiding. But last month, I intercepted communications. They've found you. They know your daughters are your weakness. They're coming tonight. Alexander stared at her, torn between disbelief and a rising, suffocating fear. You expect me to believe, but before he could finish, the house security alarm blared. Mason's voice crackled over the intercom. Sir, we've got movement, 3 vehicles approaching fast, no identification. Maria was already moving. Get the girls, she ordered, her voice suddenly that of a commander, not a cleaner. Alexander hesitated for only a second before running upstairs, scooping Sophie into his arms and grabbing Emily's hand. Downstairs, Maria had pulled a pistol from a bag hidden in the cleaning closet. Mason burst in, wide-eyed. Where the hell did you get? Later, Maria cut him off. Lock the south entrance. They'll breach there first. The next 10 minutes were chaos. Armed men in black masks swarmed the gates, cutting through the security team with brutal efficiency. Gunshots echoed through the marble halls. Maria moved like a ghost, covering Alexander and the girls, issuing orders Mason obeyed without question. At one point, an attacker rounded the corner toward Emily. Maria was faster, dropping him with a single, precise shot. Move, she barked, shoving them toward the panic room. The girls were crying now, clutching their father. Inside the steel-lined safe room, Alexander tried to steady his breathing as Maria and Mason held the attackers off. "Why are you doing this?" he asked her through the crack of the door. She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Because I promised someone I'd keep them safe." Hours later, the police cleared the property. The attackers were dead or captured. Mason reported that without Maria's intervention, the girls would have been taken before backup arrived. In the quiet aftermath, as paramedics checked over the shaken children, Alexander found Maria in the foyer, wiping blood from her sleeve. "Who did you promise?" he asked. She looked at him for a long moment, then down at Sophie, who was curled up asleep in his arms. "Your wife," she said softly. Alexander's heart stopped. "My wife?" Maria nodded. "Before she died, she hired me. She knew there were people who wanted to hurt you. She told me, if anything ever happened to her, I was to watch over the girls, no matter what." For the first time in years, Alexander felt the walls he'd built around himself crack. He saw Maria not as a stranger, but as someone who had been silently guarding his family all along. "Stay," he said quietly. "Not as a cleaner. As their protector." Maria gave a faint, tired smile. "That's what I've been from the start." And so, in the days that followed, the house felt different. The girls laughed again, clinging to Maria like an aunt they'd known forever. Alexander found himself watching her not with suspicion, but with a deep, unspoken gratitude. He knew the threats weren't over, men like the ones who came that night never stopped, but for the first time, he felt they might actually stand a chance. Because they had Maria. If this story gripped you, if you felt your heart race and your chest tighten in those moments, make sure you subscribe to our channel right now. We have more stories like this, full of suspense, heart, and unexpected heroes who change everything. You won't want to miss the next one.